Man, CNN is shocked to find out that Americans don't care about climate change anymore. And that Americans don't believe that these fires were started by climate change. You know what these Americans believe? That these fires were started by people? Sit down. You know, what's more likely? What's more likely that this massive blaze, this massive inferno that's been engulfing California, Southern California, LA, that's laid waste to entire neighborhoods. What's more likely, I ask you, that this destructive flame, this inferno that is just decimating Southern California is the result of climate change or the result of people doing dumb things? Probably the latter. And CNN is just, they can't believe it. I've got some great clips from CNN. What's his name? The guy that does all the polls and things like that. What's his name? Eckstein? I don't know, whatever. But we'll get to Harry Elvin. I don't know. It doesn't matter what his name is. Just his reaction to this whole thing is it's always when they find out that Americans have more common sense than they ever thought. When CNN stumbles upon the fact that, wow, Americans aren't stupid the way we've been treating them for decades. When they realize that Americans probably have a better grip on reality than CNN gives them credit for, they're always just shocked, jaw-droppingly shocked. And we'll get to that here. We'll get to that here before too long. Plus, President Donald Trump has been just working his tail off, man. He's been at Mar-a-Lago, bringing everybody in. Senators have come to Mar-a-Lago. Governors have come to Mar-a-Lago. Congress people have come to Mar-a-Lago. John Fetterman came to Mar-a-Lago, and Donald Trump met with John Fetterman and described him as a fascinating person, which I think is probably. That's probably not a horrible way to describe John Fetterman. Look, we've got the clip. We've got all the information about Donald Trump's John Fetterman meeting. And of course, Gavin Newsom, speaking of these wildfires, has just been attacking Donald Trump left, right, and center. But what we realize now is that Gavin Newsom may not just be the problem, may not just be the cause of these fires, may not just be the problem with California, but he may just be the worst person who's ever lived. Definitely one of the most ignorant and probably one of the most egomaniacal as well. We'll get to all that. Like I said, so much to talk about today. And we are 1 week away from the inauguration. How exciting is that? 1 week away from the inauguration of President Donald Trump. And there was a big story this morning. Now, the interesting thing about the inauguration of President Donald Trump is that Joe Biden, who is, I know, currently still the president. It's so annoying, isn't it? It's so annoying. All we hear about is Donald Trump and the great things he's doing already to make America great again. All we hear about is Donald Trump and the great maneuvers he's making on the world stage to put America back at the top of the heap as a global superpower, as the global superpower. All we hear about is Donald Trump and all these fantastic people he's surrounding himself with, and all these things that he wants to get done on day one. And we're all like, great, this is exciting. But then you wake up and you realize, oh yeah, Joe Biden's still president. Blah. For 7 more days. We've got 1 more weekend of the Biden administration, and then we can all breathe easy as next Monday at noon o'clock, Donald Trump will be placing his hand, noon o'clock Eastern, I should say. Donald Trump will be placing his hand on the Bible. He'll be swearing the oath of office, and then he'll head to the White House to start signing. You want to talk about a pile of executive orders that Donald Trump and his team have prepared? Stacked higher than Trump Tower are the executive orders that Donald Trump will be signing on day one. And I am all about it. But at the Capitol building, this is really kind of sad, but this is true. At the Capitol building, get this: the flag will be flying at half mast because Joe Biden has ordered it to fly at half mast through the inauguration because Jimmy Carter died. And I know what you're thinking. Jimmy Carter died a while ago. I know. They already had him at the Capitol. They came and they did the whole thing. They put him in the ground, but the flags are still flying at half mast. Well, Texas Governor Greg Abbott is standing up to the Joe Biden administration. Probably not standing up that's not the right way to say it. I shouldn't say Greg Abbott standing up, but you know what I mean. Governor Greg Abbott, he issued an order for immediate distribution this morning. He orders flags to full staff in honor of Inauguration Day. This is flying right in the face of Joe Biden's order to fly the flags at half staff. Governor Greg Abbott today ordered all flags to be raised to full staff at the Texas Capitol and all state buildings on January 20th, 2025. In honor of Inauguration Day. Pursuant to federal statute, the U.S. flag should be displayed, especially on Inauguration Day, January 20th. Texas continues to mourn with our fellow Americans across the country over the passing of former President Jimmy Carter. President Carter's steadfast leadership, blah, 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 which together as a nation we honor by displaying flags at half-staff for 30 days. On January 20th, our great nation will celebrate our democratic tradition of transferring power to a new president by inaugurating the 47th president of the United States. And so they will be moving the flags back up to full staff. I say do it, man. I say you can lower them back down, whatever. And you know what would be great is if Donald Trump, after he swore the oath of office and became the president, if he just like looked up at the Capitol Dome and said, "Okay, boys, raise her up," and then all of a sudden the flag went up to full staff. I think that'd be incredible. I don't know if that's something that he's got planned, but I know he's got a lot of great stuff. Planned. Listen, if you're new here, and we got a lot of new viewers every single day, a lot of new people popping up all the time. First of all, make sure you're subscribed to the channel because we do this kind of stuff all the time. We're here live every day, noon Eastern, 11 Central. We're posting videos like ad nauseum. Sometimes people get sick of how many videos we post, but we post a lot of them. And we've got a lot of other great information that we bring you here on this channel. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure that you say, hey, I want to set those notifications too, so I get notified. I get that little ding. I get a little text message, that little, boom, push notification, they call it, every time you go live so I don't miss a minute. And also, if you're listening to the podcast, tell iTunes, tell Spotify, say this is good stuff. Subscribe to it. Send it to me. I want more of Mark Kaye Saves the Republic whenever it becomes available. All right, let's talk about these wildfires for a little bit. First of all, just typically whenever there are wildfires or whenever there's a natural disaster in a part of the country, it's always going to be politicized now, and not by the right, usually by the left. And there's this one woman on TikTok who, I don't know who she is, but I saw her pop up. And look, if there's anybody who should be thrilled that TikTok's going away soon, it's this woman, because this woman's life, she needs to just not be on the internet. Listen to what she said about the wildfires and Republicans and California.
Go ahead, MAGA. Admit it. When you see California burning, you're like, yeah. You know why I know that? Because every time I hear a hurricane's coming or a big-ass tornado, I always say, please, please, let it only hit the white trailer courts. And especially the ones with the Dixie flag. So yeah, at least I'm not afraid to admit it.
Okay, this is typical. By the way, this is typical Democrat thought. This is what they think. They think, well, I'm a horrible person, and I wish that bad things would happen to people that I disagree with, and I wish that conservatives who are the opposite of me would die in terrible, horrible tragedies. And when I want them to hit the trailer courts, which I don't know, what's a trailer court? Is that something? I thought it was a trailer park. Is it trailer court? Trailer court to me sounds like something that's like where you would go if somebody broke into your trailer. You know, if you had a dispute. That's something that like Larry the Cable Guy. It's like a new TV show Larry the Cable Guy would host. Welcome to Trailer Court, y'all. Today we got a case of Jethro versus Elmira, and Jethro's accusing Elmira of, I don't know. I could go on with it, but I got other stuff. I got stuff I got to do. But trailer court. She goes, I pray that the tornadoes and hurricanes hit the trailer courts, especially the ones with the Dixie flags. Yeah, what's a Dixie flag? Does she mean the General Lee? Is that what she's talking about? The Dixie flags? But what she's saying basically is she's saying, look, I'm a horrible person. I wish death on people that I disagree with, and so I know that you must also be thrilled when bad things happen to Democrats. And so admit it, MAGA. Admit it. You're out there you're so excited about these fires.
Go ahead, MAGA. Admit it. When you see California burning, you're like, yeah. You know why I know that? Because every time I hear a hurricane's coming or a big-ass tornado, I always say, please, please, let it only hit the white trailer courts, and especially the ones with the Dixie flag. So yeah, at least I'm not afraid to admit it.
Yeah, and that woman, man, TikTok cannot go soon enough for that woman. Though I forgot it was the white trailer courts, not just that'd be the name of the show. Welcome to White Trailer Court. I'm your judge, Larry the Cable Guy. You may call me Your Honor. What's up, your honorable, the honorable cable guy, in Chambers. Anyway, but that's what the liberals are thinking. That's what they're thinking, because we wish harm on conservatives. Conservatives must be wishing harm on us, and they must be loving this, which they're not. We don't care. We're not happy at all that there's fires ravaging California. We're not happy at all. Look. I'll be the first to admit, hey, maybe Gavin Newsom wasn't the best choice, and also maybe Gavin Newsom should have been recalled when y'all had the chance. I'll be the first to admit that, and I'll be the first to admit, hey, maybe this is like an eye opener for leadership. Like, bad leadership leads to bad things happening. I'll admit that too. But I don't wish for harm at all. I look at this and I go, everybody looks at these fires and just goes, that is just horrible. And you can think about it and you can feel for these people. And you just have to think, I hope to God that this never happens again. And I hope to God that they get rid of Gavin Newsom and everyone else up and down the ticket. It's not just Gavin Newsom. Sure, he's the worst of the worst, but you've got mayors and city officials and these DEI hires and the fire chief and everything else. Just clear them all out and get some real qualified people in there that want to do the job, that know how to do the job, that can do the job, and that won't rest until the job gets done. And they don't care, and they won't be politically correct about saving lives and saving property and saving their state. Whoopi Goldberg, by the way, Whoopi Goldberg, former California resident, she wanted to school everybody on how these fires actually work. By the way, she wanted to school, in case you don't know how things burn, Whoopi Goldberg, thank goodness, is there. She played a clip of Gavin Newsom, which we'll have coming up here in just a minute. And then she said, look, y'all can't be blaming Gavin Newsom.
Full of the state reservoirs here in Southern California. That mis and disinformation, I don't think advantages or aids any of us.
Here's how this works. There was a fire catastrophe in California. Had to do with winds. You know how they're always saying, oh, the wind. It actually does. The winds move things and sparks move things. And it doesn't matter how much water you have if 900,000 buildings go up at the same time. Now, having lived in California, having lost every house save for one that we ever lived in, I take great offense at pointing fingers. You should be pointing fingers about how can we help?
Yeah.
It's too soon to be saying, oh, it's Gavin's fault. It's nobody's fault. It's like us taking seriously that there are, magic lasers in the sky that direct the weather. That doesn't work. It doesn't happen. This is a catastrophe, and this is what's happened. And let's try to figure out how to work towards not having it happen again. But, we don't control Mother Nature.
Wow, she said so much in such a little time and also said absolutely nothing in the same amount of time. And there's just so much to unpack. First of all, I appreciate her telling us how the wind blows things or moves things around. The wind, which moves things around. Those sparks, those embers, the wind moves it around. Okay, good. So we know now that the wind clearly, just like a plastic bag, like I saw a plastic bag, I walked out and there was like a piece of trash. Someone left a Target bag and it was just moving down the street. Really, it was like, what? And I was like, wow, is that bag moving? That's crazy. It doesn't have feet. That bag doesn't have an engine. It's like, what possible force could be moving that bag? And then I watch Whoopi Goldberg. I'm like, oh, it's probably the wind. Because the wind moves things. But I may have to play it. There's so much. I may have to cut this up word by word.
Full of the state reservoirs here in Southern California. That mis and disinformation, I don't think advantages or aids any of us.
Here's how this works. There was a fire catastrophe in California. Had to do with winds. You know how they're always saying, oh, the wind. It actually does. The winds move things and sparks move things. Okay. And it doesn't matter how much water you have if 900,000 buildings go up at the same time.
Okay, hold on. So, first of all, I think the amount of water you have does matter, especially when you have none. You got empty, the Santa Ynez Reservoir, bone dry, empty, offline at the time of the fires. By the way, it's like a mile from Pacific Palisades, not even. If there were water in there, maybe they would have had an incident. When the fire hydrants, when the firemen show up and they attach the hose to the fire hydrants and they turn on, I imagine that if you have water coming out of the fire hydrants, it's probably easier to fight a fire. But then what did she say? What did she say? Hold on, I got to play this again. She said 900,000.
Doesn't matter how much water you have if 900,000 buildings go up at the same time.
Okay, 900,000 buildings is almost a million buildings. And I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't mean to laugh because I'm not laughing at the wildfire and the destruction. I'm laughing at the idiocy. I just want to make sure that that's clear. 900,000 buildings? Are there 900,000 buildings in the state of California? That's a lot of buildings. Last I heard, I think it was 10,000. I think it was 10,000 buildings. According to Whoopi Goldberg, though, it's 900,000. And when 900,000 buildings go up in flames, it doesn't matter how much water you have. So basically what she's saying, look, the wind is going to blow. The things are going to burn. The lack of water in the fire hydrants, the lack of water in the reservoirs, the lack of water irrigating the ground beforehand to keep it damp. The lack of water in Southern California had absolutely nothing to do with the dry, bone-dry tinder going up like flames and the fire department not having any ability to stop it. That's Whoopi wisdom for you.
Now, having lived in California, having lost every house save for one that we ever lived in, I take great offense at pointing fingers. You should be pointing fingers about how can we help?
Yeah.
It's too soon to be saying, oh, it's Gavin's fault. It's nobody's fault. It's like us taking seriously that there are, magic lasers in the sky that direct the weather.
By the way, she's going to be really shocked when she sees the video of the magic weather directing lasers. She's going to be totally stunned. But she says it's too early to point the finger. It's too early to point the blame. Really? Because The View, I feel like, is always the first. I don't think too early to point the blame. Isn't that what they do? They go on every single day and they just blame people for stuff. Typically Donald Trump, typically Republicans. In fact, I guess they didn't converse with their good friend Jen Peppermint Psaki. Jen Peppermint Psaki, formerly of the Biden White House, currently of MSNBC, which I thought they were bankrupt too. I was shocked. I was shocked when I saw this Jen Psaki clip. I was like, wait a minute, didn't Peppermint Psaki's network go under? Aren't they on the auction block? Aren't they getting sold? I thought Elon was gonna buy them. And Jen Psaki has a totally different opinion than Whoopi Goldberg. Whoopi Goldberg says it's the wind's fault. You can't point fingers. Doesn't matter how much water there is. 900,000 buildings just poof, burst in flames all at the same time. You can't blame anybody, says Whoopi Goldberg. And Peppermint Psaki says that's not true. You can blame two people, Donald Trump and Elon Musk. It's their fault.
And with these fires still burning, we are facing important questions about how to mitigate and prevent disasters like this in the future. Fact is, leaders will need to confront a very complicated and challenging reality moving forward. But right now, that is not exactly what is happening. Instead, Donald Trump and his allies are injecting half-truths, misinformation, and flat-out lies in some cases in order to score a version of political points, I suppose.
By the way, when it comes to half-truths, misinformation, and flat-out lies, nobody is a bigger expert than Jen Peppermint Psaki. So I would listen. To this is when I got to say, I was like, yeah, if you're going to talk about lies, half-truths, and misinformation, you're definitely the person that I would go to for expertise on that.
We saw something similar play out just this past October in the aftermath of Hurricanes Helene and Milton, when Trump repeatedly lied about FEMA spending disaster relief funds on migrants, which didn't happen. Also baselessly claiming that the Biden administration was absent and incompetent in delivering aid, despite what elected officials of both parties on the ground said. Those lies were then spread and amplified by the richest man in the world on the social media site that he owns.
By the way, she won't even say the name of the social media site that he owns. It's called X. It's called Twitter. People still call it Twitter. But, she's like, oh, the richest man in the world spread these lies on the social media site that he owns. And I'm not going to mention what that is because I don't want to give him any more publicity. More people see Elon Musk on X than see you on MSNBC. And when Elon Musk buys MSNBC, it's going to be whole different. That's a whole different story. Let me get back to Peppermint Psaki.
Yes, none of us should have been shocked this week when Elon Musk posted that the Los Angeles Fire Department prioritized DEI over saving lives and homes. That's an exact quote. That appeared to be a disgusting dig at the city's fire chief, Kristen Crowley, who has served in the department for decades, rising through the ranks to become the first female and LGBTQ fire chief in LA's history.
Okay, I don't want to say that one thing caused another, but listen to the report. These are Jen Psaki's words, okay? The LA's fire chief, the first female / LGBTQ fire chief in LA's history, okay? Gets appointed or elected or hired, I don't know, whatever. First woman, first LGBTQ fire chief. And then during her tenure, the worst, most destructive, deadliest, most horrific, apocalyptic fire. 900,000 buildings, according to Whoopi Goldberg, going up in flames. Happens under her watch. Is there no, I mean, there's no correlation. We're not supposed to make any correlation between that at all? Okay, I just checking.
Musk also amplified a post this week from conspiracy theorist Alex Jones. Yes, that guy. He's still around. Alex Jones wrote that Los Angeles fires are part of a larger globalist plot to wage economic warfare and deindustrialize the United States before triggering total collapse. I mean, not sure that guy's okay. Musk responded to that post by writing, true. Yes, just to repeat here. That's just the richest man in the world and the best friend of the incoming president, confirming to his 200 million followers that he thinks the devastating wildfires are a part of a globalist plot. And so now we're back in this vicious cycle where Trump and his new bestie push lies about a natural disaster, and then right-wing media runs with them.
So there you go. By the way, you know who doesn't think it's part of a globalist media plot or a globalist plot? Are members of the globalist plot. So Jen Psaki says it's Donald Trump's fault and Elon Musk's fault. Whoopi Goldberg says it's nobody's fault but the wind, because the wind moves things. CNN thinks it's climate change's fault, even though most of America thinks they're batty.
I don't think Americans are making this connection. And the way we can see this in right here and now, take a look at the monthly change in Google searches. Look at the searches for wildfire. Up 2,400%. My goodness gracious. This is the most amount of people searching for wildfires ever.
By the way, Harry Enton, by the way, is the name. Thank you. Harry Enton is his name, and he made a fool of himself on New Year's Eve. But don't we all? Harry Enton, this is the guy that was the poll reader and did all the polling during the election and became this big, household name, and everybody was watching him, and we played clips of him all the time. During the election, during the primaries, during the general, he talked all about the swing states. He talked all about voters, black voters, white voters, Latino voters, young voters, everything. He followed everything. Kamala, Trump, everybody. Now that the election's over, He's got to find something to talk about. So he's now sharing numbers about Google searches. He's literally going on Google Trends and turning it into a news story, which God love him. I do the same thing. Anyway, here he is. He's talking about Google search. 2,400% is when you're, and I don't know why that's shocking. I mean, there's literally the largest wildfire this country's ever seen. And he's just can't believe that the searches for wildfires are up 2,400%.
Going back since Google Trends began back in 2004. But look at climate change. Look at the change. It doesn't go hand in hand with wildfires. It's actually down. It's down 9%. And I also looked in California. There has been no increase in the number of searches for climate change. So the bottom line is this. Americans are definitely interested in learning about these wildfires. They're interested in following the news about the wildfires, but they are not making that connection with climate change.
Yeah, because we're not stupid. Because we know. Because we've been hearing about climate change forever. Also, we know that Gavin Newsom is not climate change. Also, we know that the mismanagement of California is not climate change. Also, we know that having reservoirs bone dry and having other reservoirs diverted so that you save a smelt instead of saving, your constituents who put you in office. We know that that's not climate change. So yeah, we've made the connection and we realize that is not at all. They're not connected at all.
Bottom line here.
That's a really key metric you're looking at there, the connection. Overall, Americans being worried about climate change. What have we seen over time?
Yeah, we have seen a lot of extreme weather events over the last few decades, right? Hurricanes, heat waves, wildfires. You might expect that Americans worry about climate change with climate change worry a lot. You go back to 1991, it was 35%. Now, it was a little bit higher in 2007, a little bit higher in 2022. But look at this. In 2023, the last time we have data, 39%. That is not statistically significantly different from this 35% back in 1991.
1991, but I like how he goes 1991. Like we don't like that. But listen, I want you to look at these numbers. This is telling. This is telling. What CNN is doing here is they're basically inadvertently suggesting that climate change is political propaganda. Okay, look at this. Look at this one more time. Let me pull this back up. Okay, here we go. Here, climate change. This is, do you worry about climate change a lot? Okay, let's go back here to 1991. 35% of people said, yeah, I worry about climate change a lot. All right, that's kind of like the baseline. All right, that's the baseline. Now, jump up to 2007. What happened in 2007? Well, Barack Obama started running for office. The Democrats were like, we got to bring back the White House from the Republicans. We got George W., who's been here for almost 8 years. And in 2007, the Democrats started to use climate change as a rallying cry, as a war cry. They wanted you to believe that climate change was going to do us in. Al Gore, do you remember that guy? He was on Oprah Winfrey. He was like, after he lost the election in 2000 to George W., Al Gore floundered around for a couple of years and then glommed onto climate change and the uncomfortable truth or whatever it is, or inconvenient truth. Thank you very much. And then he went on Oprah and then he tried to scare everybody. And then when they got back into the election cycle, the Democrats were like, well, we got to use something. We got to get power back. Let's try climate change. Please. Look at this. So in 2007, in the midst of the election, that's when climate change started to get bigger. Look at 2022. 2022, you had Joe Biden in office. You had the Democrats in office. You had everybody out there screaming and yelling about climate change. They all wanted you to believe that it was the biggest issue since sliced bread. They wanted you to believe that Donald Trump was going to come back and drill, baby, drill. Because 2022 is when Donald Trump said, by the way, I'm running for office again. Donald Trump in November of 2022 said, I'm coming back, I'm running for office, and we're going to drill for oil because gas prices were going up and everybody couldn't believe it. And now that the election is over, look at this in 2020. Look at this. Everyone's like, you know what? We don't really care anymore. We're like, we're done. We get it. It was all propaganda. Why don't we put the fires out and then we'll figure out, maybe we'll get some new leadership in there. That'll be better. Now, when it comes to what actually caused these wildfires, we're pretty sure, at least I believe it's not climate change. I believe it's not the wind. Whoopi Goldberg brought up the weather, lasers. Yeah, I'm still investigating that. But a lot of people believe it may be arson. In fact, there was this video. I don't know if you saw this, but this video went viral. This man saw a guy with a blowtorch. They call it a blowtorch. And it's basically like a canister, one of those torches, a canister, and you can turn it into like a blowtorch kind of thing. They saw the guy starting a fire, so they apprehended these good Samaritans, basically grabbed the guy, they grabbed the torch, and like 3 of them stood around waiting for the cops to come. The cops finally came, and they arrested the guy, and the guy was fighting. It was crazy. Somebody got video. Here come the cops. The cops show up, and they arrest this guy who was lighting fires in L.A., and he was apprehended. He was taken by these 3 think about it. You're in your neighborhood and you see this guy with a blowtorch starting fires. Of course you're going to go and you're going to do exactly what this dude did. And that is run up to him and say, what are you doing in my neighborhood with that blowtorch? Don't you know that there's wildfires? Don't you know? It seemed like the guy was committing some kind of arson. So what happened was the cops came and arrested him, and check this out. They made the papers. Suspect, let me reload this real quick. Suspect arrested with flamethrower near LA fire is an illegal immigrant, sources say. The homeless man, tackled and zip-tied by onlookers who say he was trying to start fires with a blowtorch near a Los Angeles wildfire, is an illegal immigrant who will likely be protected by California's sanctuary city status, according to sources. The suspect is Juan Manuel Sierra Leyva, a Mexican national who is in the United States illegally, sources told the Post. This is not, by the way, fact. This is nothing you can fact. This is the New York Post, one of the oldest papers we have in the country. Don't fact check me. Don't come at me. I'm just saying what it is. He was chased and taken down by residents of Woodland Hills after they allegedly saw him torching old Christmas trees and debris on fire with what one resident described as a flamethrower soon after the massive wildfire began on Thursday. The suspect is being held on a felony probation violation. The Los Angeles Police Department said without detailing his previous conviction. Detectives are still investigating it as possible arson, but LAPD Assistant Chief Dominic Choi said Friday that there was not immediately enough evidence for that charge. The lack of communication between local and federal law enforcement agencies in Los Angeles due to sanctuary policies put in place by LA City Council and Governor Gavin Newsom have resulted in many arrests that have been unreported to and followed up by ICE. A law enforcement source told the Post, many of which are criminals who have numerous encounters with local law enforcement for serious crimes. California's sanctuary state law, passed in 2017, ensures that no state resources are used to assist federal immigration enforcement. The Los Angeles County City Council unanimously passed an ordinance in November that prohibits the use of city resources and personnel to carry out federal immigration enforcement. Sierra Leyva has a lengthy rap sheet. This is the guy they arrested. Has a lengthy rap sheet in LA County and has been convicted of multiple crimes, including assault with a deadly weapon in 2023. He has collectively spent more than 2 years in jail. So here's a guy that records tell us is in the country illegally. He's in the country illegally. He's already been arrested. He's got a rap sheet. He's been arrested on assault charges. And now he's in a neighborhood with a blowtorch trying to light old Christmas trees on fire. The neighbors rally around, zip tie him, wait for the cops to come. The cops come, they arrest him. And now it looks like, you know what? He'll be protected because LA is a sanctuary city and California is a sanctuary state. So it could be that illegal criminals, illegal arsonists, it could be that some kind of terrorist from abroad who came over illegally over the border. We don't know. We don't have the facts. But for the most part, we definitely have some suspicions. And while we're now thinking, okay, Americans don't believe this was climate change. Americans don't believe that this was just the wind. Americans believe something. What is happening that is causing all of these fires? Well, it could be that the problem isn't climate change at all, but illegal immigration. Something that Donald Trump is trying to fight. Something that Donald Trump will fight. Tom Homan was interviewed. He was asked about what's going to happen on day one. He was asked, are you going to start rounding people up like during the inauguration?
We want to take steps to secure the border.
President-elect Trump's incoming border czar Tom Homan tells us mass deportation will include workplace roundups.
Are we talking around Inauguration Day, even on Inauguration Day? I'm not going to forecast what we're doing and where we're doing it, but you can count on worksite enforcement coming back.
ICE agents have told us they prioritize arresting undocumented immigrants with criminal records. Critics have asked, what about undocumented family members?
Will there be collateral arrests? Yes. It's not okay to be in this country illegally.
Homan's also working on creating a hotline where Americans can report undocumented immigrants who've committed a crime.
Man, put that one in my speed dial. Put that one in my speed dial. Boop, 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 boop. Yes, I'd like to report a crime. I believe it's an illegal. I'm going to use that on some of my relatives for sure. But listen, Tom Homan's like, we're no nonsense. We're going to start going after these people, and you can't stand in our way, California. In fact, do you know that California, while these wildfires are just burning out of control, while people are losing their homes and their livelihoods, while there's devastation across LA, do you know what Gavin Newsom is doing? Gavin Newsom called a special session, not to fight illegal immigration, not to round up arsonists, not to help fix the problem, not to even extinguish the fires. Gavin Newsom called a special session in California to sue President Trump. It's true.
While Los Angeles burns, Governor Newsom's special session to Trump-proof California is underway in Sacramento, drawing ire from Assembly Republicans and Vince Fong alike.
The state legislature and the Democrats that control it, they've decided that spending money to sue an incoming administration was better than preparing for future fires and dealing with the fires currently at hand. That is not only tone deaf, but just the clearest example of misplaced priorities by this governor and the supermajority in Sacramento.
Man, Trump proofing. They called a special session, and they're allocating money for lawsuits to Trump-proof Los Angeles, to Trump-proof California, to protect Californians from Donald Trump. This is what Trump-proofing looks like, by the way. acres and acres of trees and homes and businesses and livelihoods and memories ablaze. This is what Trump proofing looks like. You want to see a Trump proof California? Just Google Pacific Palisades. Google the Nathan Fire. That's what a Trump proof California looks like. Gavin Newsom wants to continue. Gavin Newsom doesn't want Donald Trump coming in and helping. Donald Trump is like, look, we're going to get rid of illegal aliens in your state that are drowning your resources, that are committing crimes, that may be committing arson, that are definitely bringing in gangs and drugs and all kinds of other things. We're going to try to make your cities and your communities and your state safe. And Gavin Newsom says, we don't want any of that. We want you to stay out. We want a Trump-proof California. And Trump-proofing California is a very deadly. It's got very deadly consequences. And if you don't believe me, just ask, anybody from the Pacific Palisades area. They're also getting more money. they're also the illegal immigrants in California. While California burns, while Joe Biden sends $500 million to Ukraine, California is giving more money to illegal immigrants. Listen to this.
But the thing is, for sanctuary cities and states, they complain about the cost, but they continue to add services. I want to show you California. As of yesterday, California has added a health care benefit for migrants. They are now going to extend free health care to migrants between the ages of 26 and 49. That's going to cover 700,000 additional people and cost the state $2.6 billion each year. Now, that's added onto that's added onto California's deficit, which is already $68 billion.
They have a $68 billion deficit. They're going to add $2.6 billion more, all to give free health care coverage to illegal immigrants, not legal citizens, not California residents, not people who voted in the election, not people who own businesses in California, to illegal immigrants. $2.6 billion more dollars. Wow, don't you think that $2.6 billion could be used and maybe should be used to rebuild some of the quote unquote 900,000 buildings that all burned at once, according to Whoopi Goldberg? You would think so. In other states, they're doing the opposite of Trump proofing. They're calling special sessions so that they can help, so that they can aid Donald Trump, so that they can say, hey, President Trump, we understand that you have this agenda. We understand that you have this mandate. We understand that you need to help save America from the onslaught of illegal immigrants. And we're here to help. One of those states, Florida. The Florida, home of Mark Kaye Saves the Republic, Kayetriot HQ, Mar-a-Lago. Right here in the state of Florida, our governor, Ron DeSantis, had a special announcement this morning. He, too, is calling a special session, but it's not to spend money to Trump-proof Florida.
Have a responsibility to be in this fight. State and local officials in Florida must help the Trump administration enforce our nation's immigration laws. And we are going to need, in order to do that effectively, we are going to need legislation to impose additional duties on local officials and provide funding for those local officials. There also needs to be measures to hold people accountable who are violating our anti-sanctuary policies. And then Florida needs to make sure that we don't have any lingering incentives for people to come into our state illegally. So therefore, I'm going to call the legislature into special session starting the week of January 27th. We have the next president taking office January 20th. We anticipate executive orders to be issued immediately after the swearing in and the inaugural address. We're going to have some time to process to make sure we're doing what we need to do, but then we need to act, and we need to act quickly. We don't have time to waste. The American people spoke very clearly of all the issues out there, and there were a lot of very important issues. This issue of the border and illegal immigration was one of the top issues in the 2024 election, and has been one of the top issues that we've had in this country for many, many years.
All right, so Ron DeSantis is saying, look, Donald Trump's going to go next week. He's going to put his hand on the Bible. He's going to say, I'll be the best president ever. And then he's going to go start signing executive orders, many of them having to do with the border, many of them having to do with illegal immigration, many of them having to do with, getting the mass deportations underway. And Ron DeSantis is saying, look, we got to help him. We got to help him. We have a duty to help him. In fact, Donald Trump just had Ron DeSantis and a bunch of other Republican governors down at Mar-a-Lago. I imagine this is one of the things that they discussed. I imagine this had to be one of the things on the docket, was talking about, because, Donald Trump is president of the United States of America. So if President Trump says, we got an immigration problem, we got to shut down the border, we got to get these criminals back home where they belong, then that is something that all the states must unite together to do. And Florida's like, done. Ron DeSantis is like, I'm calling all my senators back. They're all still on break. Get your butts back to Tallahassee and get to work. Donald Trump's going to be president, so he's calling a special session, which starts 7 days after Donald Trump begins to make America great again. So next Monday, Donald Trump he takes the oath of office, becomes the 47th president of the United States, goes back to the White House and signs every single executive order he can possibly sign at a record pace to fix all the problems and all the things that Joe Biden broke. Then 7 days later, at least here in the state of Florida, the Senate is going to come back for a special session by order of the governor to help Donald Trump, to shut down the loopholes, to make sure that all of our laws are buttoned up and tight, and that we have the funding that we need, and we have the information we need, and we have the resources we need to help President Trump, help Tom Homan, help ICE, help everybody make America great again. Why? Well, because Ron DeSantis knows something that Gavin Newsom and the folks in California don't, that illegal immigration is illegal. And people that break the law are criminals.
On the head of a natural disaster, you got people that come here without authorization and they go out and try to loot the place. Give me a break. Those people need to be sent back immediately. So this will end up helping the overall situation, even apart from immigration. Now, the accountability is significant. If those duties are clear in law, I have the authority with respect to certain officials to suspend them from their office if they are neglecting their duties. And that's a authority that I have invoked when it's been appropriate in the past.
Oh, by the way, what he's saying right there is, look, we're going to come back. We're going to button everything up. We're going to make this we're not going to make this a sanctuary. What's the opposite of sanctuary state? We're going to make this a nightmare state. If you're an illegal immigrant, if you come into this country illegally, you not only will you not find sanctuary in Florida, we will be your worst nightmare. And any state official who gets in the way, or any state official who shirks their duty to their constituents, any state official who says, I'm not doing all of that, you're fired. Basically, he's saying, I have the ability to suspend that person. That means you're fired. You're out of here. We will replace you. And he wants everybody to know that at the get-go.
We also need to make sure that we don't have incentives for people to come illegally. We enacted E-Verify. People said that couldn't happen. We really did probably the strongest legislation in the country in 2023. So I think Florida has really done a great job, with one lingering exception. So back in 2014, the legislature enacted and then the then governor signed legislation providing preferential tuition for illegal immigrants, in-state tuition. That is a benefit that you're rewarding somebody for being here illegally.
Yeah, so I think that's a dig at Governor Scott, but we'll let that one go. And this is all happening at the state level. Now, I know what you're thinking. Ron DeSantis, man, he's really taking the bull by the horns. He is. Well, it's his job. As governor, your job is to protect the citizens of your state, not protect them from Donald Trump, but protect them from foreign invaders. Ron DeSantis knows that. Also, Ron DeSantis knows he's got 2 more years in office, and then he's going to start campaigning for president in 2028. So he needs a lot of stuff. He needs all this stuff under his belt as quickly as possible. Now, Donald Trump, there's a question about whether Donald Trump is going to go to California or not. He's been invited by Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom sent him a kind of patronizing letter saying, please come to California and stop yelling at me. Stop calling me names. Stop saying vile things about me. Please come here and stand with me hand in hand, and we'll sing Kumbaya and we'll thank the firefighters. Meanwhile, Donald Trump saying, you guys are idiots. Donald Trump on his Truth Social, let me just pull this up real quick. Donald Trump on his Truth Social account, when talking about the wildfires, when talking about Gavin Newsom, when talking about the horrible leadership in California that has led to this horrible catastrophe, he said, hold on, he's got a lot. Here we go. He said, the fires are still raging in LA. The incompetent Poles have no idea how to put them out. Thousands of magnificent houses are gone, 900,000 according to Whoopi, and many more will soon be lost. There is death all over the place. This is one of the worst catastrophes in the history of our country. They just can't put out the fires. What's wrong with them? And now Gavin Newsom is asking Donald Trump to come and see what's going on in the what do you call it? In the fire ravaged area of Los Angeles. Donald Trump also got another invitation, by the way, not so snarky and derogatory, but one that I'm going to be honest with you, cried. It was like a cry for help almost. And it was from a woman. Let's see. It was the LA Board of Supervisors, the chairwoman. I forget her name, but she wrote a letter to Donald Trump. Look at this. She wrote, as our president, in November 2018, you and your administration took quick and decisive action when LA County was impacted by another catastrophic event, the Woolsey Fire, which devastated Malibu and its surrounding communities. Under your leadership, your White House issued major disaster and emergency declarations allowing for the rapid deployment of federal resources, including emergency personnel and financial assistance. You also personally visited our impacted communities, seeing the devastation firsthand. And then she went into this whole thing. She said, we would also ask you, our president, to stand with the people of Los Angeles County. Your presence would be deeply felt and appreciated. So she's invited him as well in a much more cordial way, citing that Donald Trump, despite what Gavin Newsom thinks and despite what Gavin Newsom says, all the lies that Gavin Newsom spreads, despite all of that, she wants Donald Trump to come because she knows he's the one person that can fix the whole place. Is Donald Trump going to go? We know he can't go next. Next week, he's busy. Okay. Monday, inauguration, parade, executive orders, ball. Next day, parties continue. Got to fix the entire country because it's been dilapidated over the last 4 years. Lots of work to do. But he does have, I would assume, some time this week. And it appears that he's already been in talks. This was Mayor Bass from LA. Listen to what she said about her conversations with Trump's folks about him possibly visiting the wildfire ravaged areas of Southern California.
Is the incoming president expected to come here?
I believe so. I mean, I certainly, it was a positive response yesterday.
Yeah, I will say, knowing what I know, and I represent Altadena, which is probably the most diverse community that in the 5th District, this is the exact constituency that he was talking to. You've got socioeconomics from all walks of life, and they are suffering. So I am confident that this president will come.
Well, my conversation also yesterday was throwing around possible points of timing.
Points of time. Why do Democrats talk so weird? We've been throwing around possible points of time. You mean times? What time is good for you to come to California? 9 o'clock on Thursday. Great. What point of time? I guess that's how Democrats talk. But anyway, so it appears that there will be some kind of trip for Donald Trump to make it to California. I would assume that he would. He went to North Carolina, remember? Donald Trump went to North Carolina with Franklin Graham and Samaritan's Purse. Donald Trump was the only one. When FEMA was out there handing out $750 checks to people who qualified, and guess what? Even if you lost your home in a mudslide, sometimes you didn't qualify. While Kamala Harris was struggling and floundering and looking like a bigger idiot than she usually does, Donald Trump was out there with Samaritan's Purse, bringing in trucks of supplies, bringing in people to help. And it appears that now in California, look, they're not calling for Gavin Newsom to come to LA. They're not saying, please, Governor Newsom, let's read this again. Nowhere does it say, Governor Newsom, here it is. We would also ask you as our president to stand with the people of Los Angeles. Your presence would be deeply felt and appreciated. Nobody's saying that about Gavin Newsom. They all hate the guy. Gavin Newsom is scared to go to LA because he knows he's going to get attacked. He already got attacked by a mom who he tried to lie. He's like, sorry, on the phone with Joe Biden. I got to go. They don't want Gavin Newsom. They want a real hero. They don't want FEMA. FEMA, by the way, is passing the buck too. This FEMA woman was on one of the Sunday shows. I think the one with Margaret Brennan. Listen to FEMA basically saying, we have no idea what basically what happened was there was, I guess there was some kind of order by Joe Biden that national resources could be used to help the people in Los Angeles. Listen to this.
Ønske.
Oh, sorry. That's the guy. Sorry. That's Ønske. Sorry. That's the guy from Greenland. We'll get to him in a minute. Let me play you the FEMA thing.
Ask you about those active duty military that you said stand ready to be deployed. Secretary Austin, the Pentagon authorized 10 helicopters, 500 Marines back on Thursday. How is it? My understanding is, as of now, correct me if I'm wrong, California hasn't made the request to use them yet. Why is that?
You know, I'd have to defer to the incident commanders, right? The incident commanders on the ground know what the needs are, where they need to put people. And often in these situations, it's very strategic. It's not necessarily about always putting more people on that. We have to make sure that it's safe. And, you know, you can only add so much aircraft in the airspace. And so they would have the specifics about the strategies that they're using, but we want to make sure that we're not late to need. And if they have that need, they can move them in.
10 more helicopters. 10 helicopters, 500 Marines. I don't know. That might clog up our airspace. Really? You don't think that 10 more helicopters could be a boon, a benefit, a help? You don't think that 10 more helicopters could help get people where they need to go or help rescue people from where they are? 10 helicopters are going to, we have so many aircraft in the airspace right now. 10 more helicopters is really going to, you're like one of the largest cities in the country. 500 Marines. She's like, look, the incident commanders on the ground make those decisions. I don't think the incident commanders on the ground are making any decisions. They're talking about the strategic. There's strategic reasons why and why not they ask for this help. It's all a poop show is what it is. It's a clown show. These are people that are unqualified, that are egomaniacal. They have no idea what they're doing. They have no leadership. They have no strong leadership. And come Monday, they're going to have a rude awakening because Donald Trump, I imagine, is going to federalize a lot of California. He's definitely going to federalize the water systems. He's definitely going to go in there and use whatever power he has to make sure that the water is getting to LA, that the fire hydrants have water in them when the firemen show up. I mean, how could you not? It's common sense. It's the most commonsensical thing ever. And if these people can hold out till Monday, I know that help is on the way. Speaking of common sense, by the way, how weird is it that John Fetterman has more common sense than most Democrats? It's the weirdest thing ever. When John Fetterman ran for Senate back in 2022, I remember going, what? I remember going, huh? This is actually happening. This guy's running for the Senate in Pennsylvania is running John Fetterman. The guy that looks like that, he looks like the character from The Goonies. I forgot what it was called. Anyway, and that's what they did. They ran John Fetterman. They ran him against Dr. Oz. And then lo and behold, on primary night, when he won the primary, he suffered a stroke. It was just the crazy story of John Fetterman continued. And then somehow he debated, quote unquote, Dr. Oz, beat Dr. Oz, and won the Senate race. And now all of a sudden, he's like MAGA's favorite senator. He's the only Democrat that actually reaches across the aisle. He's the only Democrat that seems to realize that, not everything's a partisan battle or should be. He's the only Democrat that realizes you can't freak out every time Donald Trump says something. And he's the only Democrat that realizes, look, Donald Trump is the president. He's a Republican. Of course, he's going to want his own people in administrative positions and in cabinet positions. And as Democrats, we may not like it, but we lost. And so he warranted himself a visit, an invitation to Mar-a-Lago. Hoodie-wearing Fetterman hopped on a plane and flew down to West Palm Beach, went to Mar-a-Lago, met with President Donald Trump, and afterward, President Donald Trump was interviewed by the Washington Examiner. Was interviewed by the way, and they asked him. They flat out said, "What'd you think of Fetterman?" Listen to what Donald Trump said.
So throughout the weekend, Trump holding meeting after meeting over at Mar-a-Lago, and it wasn't just with Republicans. The president-elect says he had a fascinating conversation with Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman talking about the border, U.S. steel, and support for Israel. Trump telling the Washington Examiner that Fetterman is not a liberal or a conservative. He's just a common-sense person, which is beautiful.
He's not a liberal or a conservative. He's just a common sense person, which is beautiful. Fun fact, that's the only time that John Fetterman and beautiful have been used in the same sentence. Thank you very much. But he's saying, look, he's not a liberal or a conservative. That's interesting. He's a fascinating person. I had a fascinating conversation. I would imagine any conversation with John Fetterman is fascinating. I don't think you could not have I would love. In fact, I don't have any producers anymore, so I have no one to get. I used to yell. I used to be like, get John Fetterman on the show. I'm gonna try to get him on the show myself. I don't have any producers anymore, but I'm telling you, I think John Fetterman would be fascinating. I know a lot of people don't trust him. I know a lot of people don't like him. I know a lot of people think he's pretending. He's like a wolf in sheep's clothing. He's not. He's a wolf in a hoodie. I don't even know if he's a wolf. He's just in a hoodie. But Donald Trump likes him. Donald Trump said he's a fascinating person. We had a great conversation, and I think it's a beautiful thing that he seems to be neither. Look, if Democrats hate you, you can't be all that bad. That's my motto. If Democrats are like, what is wrong with this guy? Then you can't be all that bad. And John Fetterman has done and said a lot of things recently which seem more commonsensical. And again, I can't believe I was the first one. If I ever got to talk to John Fetterman, if I met the guy or if I had him on the show, the first thing I would do is apologize and say, I made a lot of fun of you. I had a lot of fun making a lot of fun of you. But at the same time, it seems like in the end, I don't know if it was the stroke. I don't know if it was spending 2 years in Washington, D.C. I don't know if he's having one of those RFK Jr. come to Jesus with the Democrat Party moments. But he's doing and saying a lot of things, and he's acting in a way that your typical socialist, left-wing, lunatic Democrat doesn't act. He's acting in a way that's nonpartisan. He's acting in a way that actually would benefit the entire country. And Donald Trump said, come to Mar-a-Lago. I want to talk to you. He said he's a fascinating guy, which is really, I mean, it's really, we're in for a treat, man. These next 4 years, Donald Trump in the White House, Senate control firmly in the hands of the Republicans, the House of Representatives with a very slim majority. Oh, by the way, remind me to tell you about Corey Mills. Remind me to tell you about Corey Mills. Well, the Democrat majority in the House of Representatives, very, very slim, like 1, maybe 2 votes. It's going to be a fascinating year. I mean, John Fetterman meeting with Donald Trump and being probably the strongest bipartisan voice in government. I can't even wait. Tomorrow, the Senate confirmation hearings begin, and we're really going to see who's totally lunatic out of control and who actually has a little bit of common sense. But I think Pete Hegseth's begins tomorrow. I think Doug Burgum's begins tomorrow. And then every day this week, there's going to be confirmation hearing, and then leading up to the inauguration, which, like I said, we'll be in D.C. for. Let me talk to you a little bit about Corey Mills. So Corey Mills is a congressman here from Florida. And as you know, there will soon be a vacancy because Marco Rubio is the current senator, one of the two from Florida. And on the 20th, he's going to be resigning so that he can become the Secretary of State. He'll have no problem with his confirmation. Marco Rubio will be confirmed. He'll be the Secretary of State. He'll go off and start trying to stop wars and negotiating with people and all that kind of stuff. But that leaves a big gaping hole here in Florida where we're going to need a senator. And there's been a lot of back and forth about who's going to be picked because Governor Ron DeSantis picks. They said there's no special election for Senate. We've got a special election in District 1 for Matt Gaetz's seat. We've got a special election in District 6 for Mac Waltz's seat, but we don't have a special election for senator. It's just the governor gets to pick. And there was talk of Laura Trump, but she withdrew her name from consideration. So now Corey Mills, who is a representative in Florida, I forget what district, Florida representative. It's over there. It's over west of here. I mean, everything. I'm on the East Coast, so everything's west. But Corey Mills has said he will definitely run for the U.S. Senate in Florida in 2026. He also said this morning that he had a long conversation, a 1-hour-long conversation with Governor DeSantis, and he said that it went very, very well, which, okay, fine. If Corey Mills, let me see if I can find this. If Corey Mills, here he is right here.
Justice appointments and confirmations. And the good thing is that the governor has done such an amazing job in the state of Florida. Him and his team sat there for about an hour, asked various questions. And at the end, even the governor himself said that this was an extremely good interview, that he thought everything went really well. And he looked forward to talking to me in the future. So fingers crossed, we can get in there and have some strong leadership that Marco Rubio had represented, and also just continue to try and keep the majority in the Senate and continue to grow that.
Okay, so quickly, before we move on, make the pitch. Why do you want to go from congressman to senator?
Well, look, right now we've got a great, House. We've got a great leadership there. We've got our speaker who's continued to drive forward. I think what we're lacking right now is to continue to have that constitutional conservative there in the Senate who will actually continue to hold its values, its principles. But also, we need fighters in the Senate. We've got people who's been there for 20, 30, and 40 years. We need people who are coming in with a fresh perspective, who understand what the country needs right now and understands President Trump's agenda. And so I think right now what we need is real strength in the Senate. I think the House is doing a great job.
So there you go. That's Corey Mills, 7th. He's the 7th district. That's Corey Mills from the Florida 7th district, and he's saying, look, we need strong leadership, we need conservative leadership, we need MAGA senators from Florida and everywhere else to help Donald Trump. But what that does is that opens up another seat in the House of Representatives. And I think she was actually going to talk about that in a minute. But that opens, and then we're basically have zero majority. So, yes, he may be a good pick. Yeah, Governor DeSantis may think he's a good guy. Yeah, he's military. Sure, I know a lot of people. I know he's very popular in his district. But at the same time, if you pluck another congressperson, that's Elise Stefanik, that's Mike Waltz, that's Matt Gaetz, that's 3. And if we get a 4th one, we're basically at the mercy of the Democrats in the House of Representatives. So hopefully, at least, I don't know, these special elections aren't until April, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But we need representatives ASAP. We need representatives fast. We need good representatives. And that is something that, there's so many other people from so many other different walks of life that aren't going to throw a ratchet in the system. If we had a 10-vote majority, sure, go for it. But we don't. If you want to run in because that was the original thing. That was originally what Corey Mills wrote was Eric Daughtry broke the news. Breaking, Congressman Corey Mills announces he's likely to run for U.S. Senate from Florida in 2026. That's great. If you want to finish out your term and then run in 2026, that's awesome. I'm all about that. In fact, as you know, I'm plotting my own run for Congress in 2026 so I can primary this John Rutherford guy who is a weak, non-MAGA, in it to win it for himself conservative, quote unquote, from Florida's 5th district. And look, and it's exciting. If in 2026, all of these races line up, then you've got Matt Gaetz, who's going to be running for Florida's governor. You've got Corey Mills, who could be running for Senate. And you've got yours truly, Mark Kaye, running for Congress in District 5. That's a dream team right there. That's a dream team that's going to make sure that President Trump's agenda moves through and make sure that all of the conservative MAGA values that everybody upholds and everybody loves continue. And we're not going to let the deep state or the Republican elite continue to just go to Washington, D.C. and make millions of dollars for themselves the way John Rutherford has been doing for the past 5 years. Longer than that, 8 years almost. My gosh. So that's the plan. But at the same time, all of this, it's a chess match and it's got to be strategy. And we can't weaken out any branch of government. We can't make it any weaker than it already is. And right now, while we have strength in numbers, the weakest branch we have is, of course, the House of Representatives, especially since we have some rebels there who like to, do their own thing. Real quick before we get out of here, 2 things I want to mention. Melania Trump was on Fox and Friends, and she is so excited to get back to the White House. And this time it's going to be different for Melania. I feel great for Melania Trump. I think that she got totally disrespected the first time around. She got totally disrespected the first time around. What happens is the first time around, what happened is you had Melania Trump, who was disrespected by the magazines. She was disrespected by the liberals, by the Republicans. People didn't give her a chance. People did not think that she was a legitimate first lady because they did not believe that her husband was a legitimate president, and the two go hand in hand. They were jealous of her, of course, because A, she's gorgeous, and B, she's cool. But this time around, I think she's going to be treated differently because Donald Trump has the mandate. More people respect Donald Trump. It's been 4 years. We saw Dr. Jill Biden keeping Joe Biden, propped up. And we saw Jill Biden go into cabinet meetings and take charge like she somehow got nominated or elected president of the United States. Melania Trump, I think, is in for and I think she knows it. And she is, now that Barron Trump is off at college at my alma mater, NYU, now that there's no more kids at home, now that she can go to Washington, D.C. and embrace the majority of the Americans appreciating her and her husband, I think she's going to have a great time. And that's what you talked to Ainsley Earhart about earlier today.
Behind the scenes, what is it like when you're moving back in the White House? What's different this time?
The difference is I know where I will be going. I know the rooms where we will be living. I know the process. The first time was challenging. We didn't have much of the information. The information was upheld for us from previous administration, but this time I have everything. I have the plans. I could move in. I already packed. I already selected the furniture that needs to go in. So it's very different transition this time, second time around.
Will you decorate it exactly like it was before, or are you making changes?
A little bit of changes, not much.
Yeah, a little bit of change. Listen, she knows exactly. She's like, look, the first time around, we went in there and we didn't know what was happening. But this is true not just of Melania, it's Donald Trump. Donald Trump, do you remember when he had Reince Priebus and he had a couple other people that were in charge of his White House, and he wasn't sure what to do? He did not know exactly who to trust. He trusted people he shouldn't have, and he didn't trust people that he should have. And at the end of the day, Donald Trump had a tumultuous couple of years there. He did a great job. But nowadays, man, he knows exactly who to trust, who not to trust. He knows what to do, what not to do. He knows where his allies are and where they aren't. He's bringing in a whole new crop of Republican support. And Melania is the same way. She's like, oh, I know a lot better now. I know a lot better nowadays. I know a lot better as to what's happening with the ins and outs of the White House than I did before. So it's going to be different, a little different, not much different, just a little bit different. And that's exactly how Donald Trump's administration is going to be as well. It's going to be an exciting time. Also, they asked about some of these platforms because, you know, she had an initiative. She had some platforms that she was going to be working with, and they didn't give her the time of day. And listen to what she said about that.
Will you continue with your platform, Be Best? I will continue with Be Best, and also I will expand Be Best. I started in the first administration. I didn't have much support from anyone. I invited all of the streaming platforms to the White House. I had the round table, and I didn't have much support from them. And imagine what we could do in those years if they will rally behind me and teach the children and protect them about the social media and their mental health.
By the way, Be Best, for those of you that don't remember because the media just buried it, Be Best was her pet project. Every first lady has a pet project. They have some kind of public service that they do. You may remember Nancy Reagan and her Just Say No to Drugs campaign. That was a big thing for her. Michelle Obama wanted kids to eat healthy in schools. Of course, that backfired because nobody wanted to eat the crap that she wanted them to eat. Jill Biden, her whole thing was, let's keep my husband alive. That was her big pet project. But Melania Trump had Be Best, which was an anti-cyberbullying campaign. It was a campaign to protect children online, protect them from getting cyberbullied, protect them from getting, harmed by their peers online and on the internet. And it was something that was basically ignored by the mainstream media and by all of these streaming platforms. But think about now. Think about what's going to happen now. You've got Mark Zuckerberg, who already went to Mar-a-Lago and begged Donald Trump. It was like, please, I want to help. I'm sorry. I'm mea culpa for all of the censorship and all of the bad deeds that I did and all of the millions of dollars I gave to your adversaries. I'm sorry about all that. Please let me help in some way, shape, or form. You don't think that Mark Zuckerberg's not going to be at the next Be Best meeting at the White House with Melania Trump saying, yes, let me do everything I can to help you with your Be Best anti-cyberbullying, save the kids on social media programs? 100% he is. What about Elon Musk? Elon Musk, the richest guy in the world who owns X, he is going to be right there with Melania Trump helping all of the kids be best. Rumble is they are a huge conservative platform and they are growing by the day. They're going to be there as well. It's going to be the opposite of what it was the first time around. Melania is going to have support. Donald Trump's going to have support. Melania is going to be able to do what she wants to do. Donald Trump's going to be able to do what he wants to do. Melania is going to know who to trust and who not to trust. Donald Trump, same thing. It's really going to be I'm looking so forward to it. Now, next week, like I said, we will be live at the inauguration. We're not going to have a live show, of course, because we're going to be sitting in the freezing cold. My wife already got me a hat. I think I showed it to you last week. We're getting scarves and gloves and warmers. It's going to be like 19 degrees while we sit in front of the Capitol watching Donald Trump take the oath of office. It's going to be totally worth it, and I'm totally stoked about it. But it's going to be frigidly cold. I make no bones about that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have a show on Tuesday and a show on Wednesday, and I'm going to bring you all the highlights, all the excitement, all of the crazy protesters, all of the nutso crowds, all of the parades. If you can't be at the inauguration, you're going to want to subscribe to this channel, because I'm going to make sure that this channel, that this platform, that this podcast, that this live stream, I'm going to make sure that this makes you feel like you are experiencing the inauguration for yourself. If you can't be there in DC next week when Donald Trump takes the oath of office, I want you to feel like you are. And that's what I'm going to do here on this channel. So make sure you hit subscribe, like, set those notifications. If you're listening to the podcast, make sure you download it every single day. Make sure you're subscribed as well, so it's downloaded every single day automatically to your phone. The dogs are freaking out. I don't know why the dogs are screaming. I hope you guys can you guys hear the dogs? Something's really annoying them. Listen, well, I'll go get them in just a minute. But first, I want to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, you can get your official Gulf of America t-shirt, which again has been the single most popular item that we've had since the Matt Gaetz "Oh Boo All You Want" shirts for Halloween a few years ago. The Gulf of America line now available at markshop.com, multiple fashion colors. You know what's really surprising? Not surprising, but just, I guess not surprising, but here, this yellow, there's a yellow one. And I guess because it's kind of summery, this yellow one has been very popular. A lot of the Gulf of America logo, there's the light mode and the dark mode, whichever one you prefer. There's all kinds of sizes. So we go from small to 5X. Somebody wrote me and said, "Do you have a 6X?" And I was like, "No, dog. there's only so much we can do. We can't get, I'm sorry, with 5X is as big as they go." We've got hoodies too. And the hoodies also very popular because it is winter and it is frigidly cold. But if you want to get one of your official Gulf of America hoodies, or if you'd like to get a Gulf of America t-shirt, then we have ladies t-shirts as well. They're specially cut for a lady's figure. Oh, and the V-necks, man. All the women always complain that I don't have enough V-necks in the store. So we made you a V-neck, Gulf of America V-neck. There it is. So you can show off your neck. Black, blue. Both of those are available to you. We have other great items, including Stanley Cups or travel tumblers and Gulfy, the official Gulf of America mascot. While you're getting yourself a t-shirt or a hoodie, don't forget about the kiddos. Get them a cute Gulfy, the official Gulf of America mascot bear at markshop.com. To make it easy and convenient for you, there is a link in the description of this video. Also, if you're on YouTube, I think you can see photos of it. You can just click on one of those photos down there. And I had a guy write to me and say, "Hey, what gives? I didn't get the coupon code for 15% off." And I wrote him back. I was like, "Dude, it's right there at the top. Trump World is the coupon code. It saves you 15% on your entire order. So make sure when you check out, don't come at me later and say, "I didn't give you a coupon code." It's right there at the top. Trump World for 15% off of your entire order. So if you're getting like t-shirts for the fam, if you're getting a hoodie, if you're throwing in a travel tumbler, whatever you want, you can get 15% off everything in your cart. The official Gulf. It's happening, folks. The legislation's there. Marjorie Taylor Greene already put forward the legislation. So it's going to happen. And you want to make sure that you're prepared when the Gulf of America is renamed. You can wear this proudly and honor the United States of America and President Donald Trump, the 47th president of the United States. Listen, thank you again for joining me today. It was a big, fun-filled, exciting day of a lot of news, a lot of stuff to talk about. Tomorrow's going to be very exciting. And again, we're going to have a lot of stuff going on tomorrow because that's when the Senate begins their hearings for Donald Trump's administration. That's when the confirmation hearings begin, and we're going to start to see Donald Trump's cabinet take shape. There will be some ups, there will be some downs. There will be some people that are like smart about it. There will be some people that are stupid about it. It will be a roller coaster of emotion at times, and we'll be here to cover it all for you. Because look, there's still Democrats in this country. There's still Democrats in the Senate and the House of Representatives. There's still Democrats in various different states across the country. And we need to continue to let them know that A, we're in charge. B, we're the majority. C, we have common sense. And D, we are going to fight so we can continue to save the Republic